Welcome back to episode 2 of Cam's Corner. I'm your host, Colin Martin, here with the man himself, Cameron Mays. To get straight to it, we're going to be talking about big news in baseball and hockey. Baseball, we know the season's just getting underway. Hockey, we're touching the playoffs. So, I'm going to hit you with my first question off the rip, Cam. Everyone knows the Rays had an amazing start to the season. They go 13, 14 and 0, 14 and 0.
13 and 0.
Yeah, 13 and 0
Not 14 and 0, 13 and 0.
Until the Toronto Blue Jays came in at home and smacked the Rays in good
I
old
wouldn't say
Toronto.
smacked, but
Smacked the Rays in good old Toronto. With that being said, how do you think the AL East will unfold now that the Rays have kind of came down from, the moon a little bit?
So kind of like we said in the first episode, I think we kind of touched on the Rays always start hot. Every year they always start hot. They always come out first in the month of April. They'll be first by, right now it's by a lot of games. I think right now they have a 4-game lead over Toronto and New York. That's usually how it is to April, but they took 2 L's against in the series against Toronto. I think they're slowly starting to slow down, but they're hot right now. And when a baseball team gets hot, they stay hot for a pretty good time. And they have great players, Rosarina, Franco, Paredes, and good pitching staff too. They have a couple guys on that bullpen who were really no names last year that they turned into some really good players so far. Still got a whole lot of season left, only 15 games in, 16 games in, but right now they're looking really good.
Yeah, and we'll bring up another team in the AL East a little later in this episode. But I just want to ask, obviously there's no question a run like this to start your season sets you up nicely. But do you think this is something that the Rays can carry on together to have them finish maybe above a team like the Yankees or the Blue Jays? Or do you think, they're kind of locked into that third or lower spot for the time being?
Right now, I think that they will hold on to first for a couple months. I say until June. And I think in June, we'll start to see things kind of slow down. They may get hit with a couple injuries. A couple guys may start to get cold. But, right now, you could say anything. You really could say anything. And I really don't think the Yankees are that good this year. I really don't. I think the Blue Jays are really good. I think the Rays and Blue Jays are going to compete for that number one going down the stretch,
All right, fair enough. So you mentioned the Rays as a team that could get hit with injuries. I'm going to bring us to our next segment and start us off with a team that has been hit with injuries. Title of the episode, what we really want to talk about is, the hypothetical panic button and if Cam is going to push it. So I have 3 teams on the list. We're going to start with the first team that's been riddled with injuries, and that's the Houston Astros. They've been without Altuve. They've had some injuries in their bullpen, and they've started off very poor. How do you think the Astros are going to finish out the season, and will you hit the panic button on Houston?
The panic button on Houston at all. I think they are too good of a team to hit the panic button. Like I said, it's still super early, but that division wrong. They don't really no other team besides the Astros to really scare me. You have the Rangers who went first right now, with like a game and a half over them in LA. I think once Altuve comes back and their pitching starts to get more healthy, I think they're just going to be the same old Astros as everyone knows. But right now, I'm not hitting the panic button on them just yet. If May and June comes around and they're still looking the same thing, say they're 7, 8, 10 games, absolutely yes.
Fair enough. The next team on my list, they've been struggling without their star player, Bryce Harper. He's looking to come back early. They're transitioning him to maybe going to first base. So there's a lot of moving pieces still going around. But they've started the year off horrible. They dropped games to some of the worst teams in the league. Are you hitting the panic button on the Philadelphia Phillies?
I'm going to kind of stay in the middle. Yes and no. You have a great star, Kyle Schwarber, who's kind of having a slow start. He's been kind of picking up in the past couple games, but not what, the front office and what the fans really wanted. Bryce Harper, a huge loss for them as well. They're superstar, like you said. That's big. But if he comes back for first base, that's going to be huge for them. They also lost Rhys Hoskins to that injury, which is really big too. And Trey Turner's not really performing how they thought he was going to perform this year. Still, I'm not going to hit the panic button yet, but in a week or two, yeah.
All right. You mentioned Kyle Schwarber, Waltham, Massachusetts legend, kicking over to the team in Boston. I know if you don't know, you missed episode 1 or you never met Cam. Big Boston Red Sox rider, I should say. This is your team that you picked to win the World Series.
Yep.
Whether you like the decision or not, I think I already know the answer, but I'd like to hear why or why not you'd push the panic button on the Boston Red Sox.
So they, this is a bridge year for the Red Sox this year, and everyone kind of knew that, but I think a lot of fans weren't really willing to accept that just yet. Already injuries. Garrett Whitlock is back. I had a really good game today. Really tough game against Tampa the other day. The Red Sox, I think I am pushing the panic button right now. They are the same as the 2022 season, right now. And they just have, you look at that lineup and all you have is Devers. That's the captain. And you don't see Devers in that lineup. Who else is there? It's really no one, and you don't have a playoff team with players like Refsnyder and Bobby Dalbec at shortstop every single game. You can't win games like that, but Chris Sale's back, but face it, he's not the same Chris Sale, and he's the same velocity. It's just he doesn't have that break on his pitches anymore. So he's getting hit a lot. So are all of their pitchers right now. But for the Red Sox, I am pushing the panic button right now. I'm not saying that it won't get better, but for right now, this early in April, for a season that looked kind of promising, I'm pushing the panic button.
Yeah, and I want to hit you with a follow-up question where we have a lot of time left on our shot clock. So I want to come at you with some more Red Sox talk. So you mentioned some really good reasons and some borderline true reasons why the Red Sox aren't performing right now. What would you do? You're put in, the manager's cleats. What do you want to do to improve this team? Like, what do you look for in the minors? What do you look for at the trade deadline? What's the decisions if you were the man?
So obviously this year, honestly, I don't think our bullpen's that bad this year. I think our bullpen has been there a lot of games so far this year in 20 games that we've played. I think that they're pretty good. I think our starting pitching rotation is kind of in a juggle right now. We have Brian Bayo, who's going to be coming back tomorrow. I think he's pitching tomorrow. We had Garrett Whitlock, who's coming back. Then we have Nick Pivetta, Tanner Houck, Corey Kluber. Houck's getting sent to the bullpen right now, but it's kind of a juggle right now because, all right, who's getting to the bullpen? Who's going to be a starter? I'd like to see one more starter, maybe like a 3 or 4 guy kind of just come in, maybe even a 2 during the trade deadline. But what we need is a shortstop. Kike Hernandez is not a shortstop. Yeah, he can play it, but he is a natural center fielder. And with Adam Duvall injured until June, July, which was a huge dig at this team, he was hot. He was kind of their only offense, really. And him breaking his wrist was huge. And Kike already has 7 errors so far. And that's not good. That's not what we need from your shortstop. And, we need a shortstop. Trevor Story's still injured. We can't really rely on him to come back because he may not even come back this season, but I think the number one priority should be shortstop and probably 3 or 4 guy in the rotation for a pitcher.
Yeah. So we just covered some teams that have not impressed so far. I like to end out segments positive, in this rapid fire baseball talk. Let's be positive. Let's talk about, I asked you for 3 players that have impressed you so far this season. We're early, but
so again, we're early, but so far, guys who are impressed, I got to give my guy Rafael Devers 7 home runs already. He's tied in the league right now with Pete Alonso, but he usually doesn't really start this hot this early in the season. You start seeing those homers come and him really starting to get really good at bats during games like June, mid-July, that time of the season. But he's starting off hot, which is really saving the Red Sox right now. And, who knows how long he can keep this up, but I'm really impressed with him. My second guy is Bo Bichette. Like I said, I think I said in the first episode, I was kind of digging on him hard. I'm like, he can't get hits. He's doing awful. But my guy, he leads the league right now, 27 hits. His batting average, saw it, but he's batting a .375. He's number 6 in the league. I think that's great for him. I really hope because him, Guerrero and Chapman, those are the studs up in Toronto. And, if they keep playing good, they might have them first in the, who knows, even go deep for a playoff run. So I'll be rooting for them too. Another guy who I'm kind of impressed with. Let me get his stats real quick. Sorry. Is on the Phillies. I know it's kind of tough, but Bryson Stott last year, I think. And he's kind of been one of the only hitting production for the Phillies so far this year, batting 380, 27 hits so far, 4 runs, which is, I'm sorry, this is going crazy. 6 RBIs. Schwarber, he's not really doing anything, like I said, and a lot of those guys, Trey Turner isn't really doing a lot. He's kind of been their go-to guy so far, you know. Kind of they're treading right now, but if he can kind of get them to above the water, head up, you know, they may be a team that can be border of 500 by the time Bryce Harper comes back. And once Bryce Harper comes back, you know, they could be a team to look out for.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you. One thing I want to throw in here, and, you know, I like to host this. I don't do a whole lot of commentary, but a guy I was thinking of while writing this question, you can call it a surprise if you want. Adley Rutschman has blown away my expectations this year. You know, for a guy that's only entering his second season, you expect things to still be a little slow sometimes, especially with a guy in the catcher position. Historically, catchers, you know, they have a tougher time hitting. But Adley has just been incredible on the offensive side of the ball. As a defensive catcher, he is even more impressive than I thought. So, I mean, you brought up some great guys. I think Adley would be on my list as well. But, I mean, with that being said, do you have anything else baseball talk you want to talk about? I'm leaving this part up to you.
Yeah, no, like I said, still super earlier in the season right now, but you know, kind of the division wise, everything's kind of panned out to how I kind of expected. Besides the NL West, we have, well, I kind of expected how it is, but I didn't expect the Diamondbacks to be in first right now. They're having a really good hot start to the season so far. And also, let's have a little talk about Fernando Tatis, who's absolutely killing it in the minor leagues right now. He comes back. He ends his suspension on Thursday. I think in his last 10 at bats, 6 of them have been home runs. Absolutely nuts. Maybe we should test this guy or something because they're giving him like secret stuff right now. So
no, Cam, I'm so glad you brought this up because I have another question that didn't quite make the official cut, but I'm bringing it up right now. So this is more of a personal question, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, so take your time. Do you think it's fair that he's getting minor league at-bats? This has been discussion we're seeing a lot on Twitter, a lot on Instagram.
Yep.
See, me personally, I hate to do this as the host. I think it might be a little unfair, but I want to hear your honest opinions.
So I can see kind of both sides of it. You know, like guys are working hard trying to be in the minors, and this is what they work for their whole life. And then they're kind of getting with a guy, you know, they can get suspended for doing what he did and they're out, their profession, they're gone, you know, and then he gets suspension, but he can play in the minor leagues, you know, kind of rehab sort of. But, you know, I mean, I don't really have a side because I see both sides. I understand the players that play against him are pissed because, oh, this guy is, you know, he's been taking steroids, so obviously he's going to do this or that. But I can see the Padres side for wanting to play him, like, oh, you know, we don't want to bring him right back, and hasn't played baseball for over.
Yeah. So no, and that's understandable. I think that could go either way as well. So I'm glad I got your take on that. You know, that's going to wrap it up for baseball for this episode, but lucky for you guys at home, it's busy in hockey right now.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to throw some meatballs at you, swing a baseball reference in there. I'm going to start with some easy points before we get into the hot stuff. One team that, you know, has been on my mind, it's been on the mind of people watching hockey is the Seattle Kraken. You know, as you guys know, if you don't at home, you know, the Kraken were the expansion team last year. And there was a lot of pressure on them because of how good Vegas was as an expansion team in their first year. Kraken were horrible last year. They were absolutely the worst team in hockey. And this year, they've completely turned it around. They're a playoff team. You know, they got a lot of work ahead of them. But I want to know your take on how the Kraken pulled this off, you know, just in 1 year.
So, you know, I'm looking at their roster right now, and, you know, they don't really have that much different as a team. I don't really think they brought on a lot of other people since who they drafted. You know, I think it was just a course of getting that chemistry better. And, you know, you can't really compare everything to Vegas. I know it's super hard because it's the first thing. Oh, Vegas went to the Stanley Cup their first year. Like, Kraken have to be good, you know, and Kraken were the worst team in the league last year. I think they only got like 13 wins or something like that. Yeah. But the improvement of last year to this year is rarely something you see, especially in hockey, with not a couple big like additions, you know? So I think that this is a chemistry kind of thing now that they're all great teammates, and you see the way they play. They're fast. They have great pass to each other, great hockey, like view of the ice, where everyone is. And I think they're going to be an underdog team during this playoffs. I think they're going to have a deep run and upset a lot of teams. So,
yeah. So to cut it to my next point, I'm going to bring it back to, some of the worst team in hockey in a little bit, but I want to give us, a little bit of thought towards the playoffs first. We're going to get your official predictions. I want to hear what you got to say. But before that, who are some difference makers on these playoff teams? Some X factors, I would like to say.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll kind of go down on each team right now. I'm looking at the kind of the matchups right now and seeing who plays who. Because last episode there's only 1 or 2 series that were set against teams, but everything's set now. It starts tomorrow. So I'll start off with the Boston Bruins. Some X factors. You have right winger David Pastrnak, absolute beast this season. 61 goals, 113 points. His first 60-goal season in the league. I mean, he was explosive. He was hat tricks, 2-goal games, left and right. It was insane. I mean, you give this guy the puck, he's scoring. Also another X factor on that Bruins team, Linus Ullmark, chosen Vezina, number 1 in every goalie stat. One of the best goalie seasons we've seen in a while.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, just a stat I'm going to bring up in case you weren't going to mention it. I mean, it's the first time in hockey we've ever seen a team with a 40-win goalie and a 20-win goalie. Mm-hmm. So I think you could even sum it up that, the goalkeeping for Boston is going to be their X factor in the playoffs for sure. Yeah,
I see on Twitter all the time, oh, this is what happens when you're on a good team. Like, this is what happens. Like, Ullmark's always been a great goalie. When he was on Buffalo, he was a great goalie. He just had no defense on him. He had no defense for him. So that's why they were losing. But now that he has a good defense, he's even better. He was always one of the best goalies in the league, but now he's the best goalie in the league. So absolutely. I hate when people say that. It really gets on me. I'll go with the Maple Leafs now. As always, Auston Matthews, generational talent, great guy. I think, the Leafs always first round exit, always, but they may give Lightning. They may win their first series since, I think I saw stats today, it's like since 2006. It's their first series. Something awful. So I think Matthews he always shows up in the playoffs. It's just, can the rest of the team as well, and can they hold it together? Tampa, as always, Steven Stamkos, Kucherov, Braden Point, who's having an unbelievable season for him, his best season so far. Those guys, Tampa Bay's always been a great team for the past couple of years, and they're a strong team, scary team, but as well, they've been kind of slowing down a bit. Can they keep it together, against a good Leafs team? They play each other. Florida, they play first round against the Bruins. They Matthew Tkachuk, trade addition early in the season. I think he's going to be an X factor for this team. He's going to lead them during the playoffs. Barkov as well. They have a lot of good guys this year. Mark Stahl, all these people, Geno Smith. So I think they'll get the gentleman's sweep. 4-1. Carolina Hurricanes. Also a great season so far, but some X factors for them. Steven Aho, I think it's Sebastian Aho. Sorry. Great. He's always had a great seasons in the past couple seasons. He's been that leader of the team, leader in goals usually. I think he's going to have a really good playoff this year, as always, as expected. New Jersey Devils, you got Jack Hughes over there, Nemo Mayer, Dougie Hamilton, Bruins legend. I think they're going to have a deep run in the playoffs. They play the Rangers first round. That'll be a good series to watch, but Devils are a team to watch, just like the Kraken. They didn't really have a good season last year, past couple of years, and for them to be this good this year is really, really shows the improvement of what young guys can do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm going to cut you a little short on, these X factors. You brought up some great names because you mentioned young guys, and that is my perfect transition to what I want to talk about next. Yeah. Before I launch your playoff predictions, I want you to get in a different mindset. I want you to think about the worst teams in the league. And, this is a very special year because at least in my, casual hockey watching, we have the biggest first overall prospect since Connor McDavid with Connor Bedard. And, there's a 3-team race for who's fighting to get him first overall, which would be between Anaheim, Columbus, and the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
So I have kind of a 2-part question because, one part is just, gambling prediction. I want to know who you think will get the first pick, but I also want you to tell me who would benefit the most from getting Bedard on their team?
Yeah. So I think there's a fourth team too. The Sharks are in competition for it too. So who I think will win it, probably the Ducks. Who I think should get it for his career, I think the Blue Jackets.
Yep.
Blue Jackets had a really bad year, but I think, he goes to the Ducks. Do you see Zegras? Zegras is a good player, but Ducks, they stink. They're awful. They've always been a bad team no matter what. You don't want to start your career there. It's going to be ruined. We saw Max Domi, a prospect a couple years ago, get drafted by the Coyotes, and he hasn't stuck with the team more than 2 seasons in his career. So I think the Ducks will probably get it, but I think the Blue Jackets are the best case scenario. Even the Blackhawks, I think it'd be a good addition for him, but Sharks, same thing with the Ducks. I don't think so, but Blue Jackets, Hawks, if I'm him, that's who I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and I just have a part 2 of this question. He's been getting a lot of buzz lately. What do you think the ceiling really looks like for him? Do you have initial thoughts about him before he makes the league?
So, you saw him, everyone sees him in the Canadian League. I forget which league he's in, but he was just unstoppable. He got the record for points in the season, record for points in playoffs. He's a generational talent, just like Connor McDavid. Some say he may even be better. With the hype he's getting, he should be better. But is that hype going to get to him? Is his first couple of years in the league going to look like very underwhelming and, just be kind of like a number 3 or 4 guy on a team for his career, But I think he's too good of a player to let that happen. So I think he's going to be in that Connor McDavid range for his career.
Yeah, and that's a hefty projection, but just based on his skill set, it seems warranted for the time being. And with that being said, I think we're at, the most fun part of the episode, the most expansive part of the episode. If you're not aware, we're in Cam's corner, and Cam is about to give us his official NHL playoff picks. I want round by round, and you can be as simple as you want. You could just tell me the Leafs are going to lose, and that's it. Or you can really get deep into it. Cards are on your table.
All right. First round, we're going to go my Boston Bruins versus the Florida Panthers. Like I said, I think it's a full sweep or a gentleman's sweep. We'll give one to the Florida fans, the 5 of them. Make them feel happy. But the Bruins are just way too good. Way too good. Unstoppable. Greatest season. But let's hope they don't get cursed and, lose. Next up, we got the Leafs versus Lightning. Like I said in the first episode, I think that the series going to 7, but ultimately I think the Lightning are going to win. The Maple Leafs they have a curse against them. I think they just cannot get out of the first round. I think the Lightning are going to win, and that veteran presence is just going to be better for them. Hurricanes versus Islanders. I think that's going to be gentleman's sweep. The Canes are going to win that. They'll give the Islanders 1 game for their home fans. Just give it to them, maybe game 4. But the Hurricanes are just way too good of a team to win. Devils versus Rangers. I think that's going to be a 7-game series. I think I said I'll have the Rangers winning in the last episode, but I'm going to switch up my take. I think the Devils are just really good. I think that will be a 7-game series. I see the Devils moving on. I think they're a great young team. I think they're going to beat them. Moving on to the West, we got the Avalanche versus Kraken. Good series, but I think the Kraken come out in this and upset City. Avalanche are good, but they're dealing with some injuries right now. Landeskog's out for the playoffs. I think the Kraken take this by surprise.
That'd be crazy.
That would be crazy. Next up, we got the Dallas Stars versus Minnesota Wild. Stars have always been there, but I think that the Wild are going to win. I really like the Wild. I think they're a good young team. They got some veterans up there, a lot of physicality. I think they're going to take this in 6 games probably. Golden Knights versus Jets. Golden Knights had a really good start to the season. Then they kind of trickled off a bit, but they ended up in first of their division. But they're kind of quieted down towards the end of the season. Not as much. The East is just way too overpowered for the West, honestly. But I see the Vegas coming out of this in a gentleman's sweep, 4-1. Going on to the last series in the first round, I have the Oilers and the Kings. I think it's going to be a great series, 7-game series, but I think McMagic's going to come out on top, do his thing, and beat the Kings. Kings are a really good team. I love the Kings. I think they're super underrated. They've been underrated for the past couple of years. They had a couple down years after their, early 2010s dominance, but I think the Kings are slowly making a comeback.
Yeah.
So moving on to the second round, I got the Bruins versus the Lightning. I think it's going to be a very hard fought series, but Bruins are just way too good. Next up, I got the Hurricanes and Devils. I think this is going to be one of the best series that we see in the playoffs. But I see the Canes coming out in 7. I think that the Hurricanes are just too good. Stadium is just really crazy. And Devils are young. They'll be back next year. Moving on to the West. Kraken versus Wild. I have upset city. I'm taking Kraken again. Give me my boys from Seattle. They're shocking the world. I think it's going to be probably game 7. Really good teams. Next up, we got the Vegas versus Oilers. I think it's going to be 6 games, 5 games. I think Vegas is going to win. Oilers are good, but I think Vegas, I like Bruce Cassidy. I think he's a good fit over there, but I think Vegas moves on.
Okay.
Now for the Eastern Conference Final, I got the Bruins Canes. Like I said in the last episode, I said the Canes are the one team that gave me a little worried about the Bruins, but I don't think they're stopping the Bruins. I think this will go 6, 7 if the Hurricanes are lucky. I got the Bruins. They're just too good. Way too good for them. I think Hurricanes will give them a run for their money for sure. But Bruins win this one to move on to the Stanley Cup. In the West, we got the Kraken, Golden Knights. Kraken's run comes to an end there. I got the Golden Knights going to the Stanley Cup. Second time.
We got the expansion matchup.
Yep, I do. Yep. I think it should be a good series, but I think Vegas will win 5 or 6, something like that. But Kraken, you have a good future. Time for the Stanley Cup. Bruce Cassidy faces his old team where he kind of broke up the team, ruined the team for a little bit because he wasn't really a player coach. A lot of players didn't like him over there. But I think it's going to be a really good series, but I see the Bruins winning in 5. I think the Bruins are just too good. The West, they're just I don't think they're that powerful. And the Bruins they've worked so hard, but Bruins winning in 5. Cue the duck boats.
Cue the duck boats. All right, one last question before we wrap it up. It's kind of a gimme. I knew you were going to pick the Bruins. Who do you think is winning that MVP trophy in the Stanley Cup? Who do you think is the guy? Yeah, who's the guy?
I'm going to pick Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a really good series. He had a great season this year. I think he's going to have a couple big time goals, maybe a game in overtime or 2, a couple assists in there, maybe like 7, 8 points in the series, and he'll get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, so thank you everybody for watching. We talked some baseball early on. We talked some hockey, and just so you guys know, I'm going to be putting Cam's predictions for the playoff series up on the TikTok. So at the Next Man Up Sports on TikTok, check us out. I'll be letting the comments decide what they think about his predictions. Let's see if they like you or not. With that being said, I'm going to leave it to Cam to say goodbye to the fans at home. But thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, put down in the comment sections how much you love Cam and how much you want him to be around more often. And Cam, if you got anything to say, I'm wrapped up.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks, so probably another 20 more games, like 15 more games back in the MLB season. First round will be wrapping up, so we'll have a lot to talk about, a lot to uncover. But thanks for watching. We'll be back and see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Mamba out.